Hi everyone. I thought I would just give a short little story time about how I came out. I'm going to give kind of the short version of the story because, it's a long story really, but so I'm currently 38, turning 39 this August. It's currently April 2020. We're all in lockdown. So, early 2015, I was driving around, getting ready for some trip, and a memory popped into my head. This memory was of a thought I had when I was young. I don't remember how old I was, but sometime when I was young, maybe late single digits, early double digits, I tried to imagine myself as a grown man, and I couldn't. It made no sense at all. I just couldn't picture it. I was, and that thought popped into my mind again, just kind of randomly, one afternoon in early 2015, so I guess about 5 years ago, just about exactly, almost. And like this light bulb went off in my head. I was like, oh my god, I don't have to be a guy, actually. It hadn't occurred to me for quite some time that, that might be that there are options. I knew about the existence of non-binary and trans people for a while, but, that was the first time it occurred to me that I might not be cis, I might not be a guy. So I lived for about 2 years kind of being out as what you might call gender fluid. I didn't change my name or my pronoun, and I continued to wear facial hair, but I did change my wardrobe a lot. And I started talking about my experiences with people, and I wore a lot of feminine clothing for a while. It kind of went on and off. I eventually settled on some more sort of gender-neutral clothing for a while. Like a year or two in, I was doing less of the feminine clothes and more kind of neutral clothes. But, because of my appearance at the time, I was just assumed to be a guy, because gender-neutral clothes will just, give way to your features. And I was still wearing facial hair and all that, and mid-2017 was sort of what you could call my second coming out. I had just decided to finish my master's degree in music composition, which I had started in 2010, did most of the work for, and then took a long hiatus. Early 2017, I started work on it again, and basically was working on my thesis. That was most of what I had to do. And so it was really cool, sort of a side story, that my thesis, which I will link here, it's a piece of music. Halfway through writing it, which took 6 months total, halfway through writing it, I came out. And someday I want to go back and kind of like reconstruct a little bit more of a detailed narrative. But what I remember happening was, I think it was June 15th, I was riding my bike to someone that I was sort of planning to hook up with via Craigslist, RIP Craigslist Personals, and on the way to this encounter, it was a daytime thing, something just hit me. I think also I had been talking and thinking about gender on a Facebook thread, and it got some stuff moving in my mind, and I was riding along and I was just thinking, something occurred to me, or I remembered or realized that femininity is really, really important to me, and part of coming out as gender fluid. At the time, I'd call myself non-binary more now. Side note, I'm a woman and I'm also non-binary. I kind of are both at the same time somehow. I was like, I really need to commit to this. Like, I want to show the world this, because femininity is like this. I realized that it was a source of my strength and my power, and I couldn't imagine myself as a man, but I could imagine myself as a woman, like as a professional, and like all of these positive things that I'm going for, to me, I associate with femininity, even though it's not intrinsically linked at all. But for me, being professional, being grown up, being financially solvent, being, you know, a responsible friend, like all of those things for me only made sense in the context of femininity for me. And so at the time I was like, okay, I'm gonna like overhaul my wardrobe again and really like show the world my femininity, even if that means like presenting a non-binary and being sort of marked or clocked as such. So I went to that encounter and backed out. It was just one of those things that was just not one of my best decisions. At that time, I was actually pretty low. It was a few months leading up to my coming out. I was rather depressed. I started seeing a new therapist. I was actually kind of almost a little bit at my wit's end in terms of just alienation and loneliness and everything. So, you know, the time was ripe. But sex used to sometimes be an expression of unhealthy things, and not always. There's been some really wonderful encounters I've had through the same means, like online or whatever, but this, like, as soon as I got there, and nothing against the person that I was visiting to see, I was just like, I don't want to be here, and I had the guts to be like, you know, I'm sorry, I think I need to go, you know, and she was fine, totally cool about it, which was really nice, and, you know, so I was like, and somehow between the realization in the morning of, oh, I need to be showing my femininity more, and something about that encounter and just, or the not encounter, where I was just like, what is this? There's something wrong here. I don't remember, actually. It's kind of hard to remember the exact thoughts, but something about that prompted me to think about everything, about my life and my job and my relationships and my everything. And so, you know, I'm pretty much sure that that evening or very soon I just started wearing more of my feminine clothes. I shaved my face, you know, and it's been bare ever since. I took some pictures of myself in, like, you know, a tank top and some other stuff, and that just made me look more feminine. I was like, oh my god. So for a little while I was actually, you know, I was pretty surprised and confused. Like, I wasn't confused about being a girl. I was confused that I was a girl. I was like, are you kidding me? What? Am I a girl? After all this time? Of course, now it makes a lot of sense, you know, knowing myself and thinking about all the signals and clues that I saw that I remember throughout my childhood and adulthood. It makes a lot more sense now, but at the time I was like, oh my god, what the hell is this? What is going on? It was just flabbergasting, but I couldn't hide it, you know, and, you know, so I overhauled my wardrobe. I, you know, changed how I did my facial hair and my head hair, and within a week changed my pronoun. Maybe within a week or two I changed my name, my first name, and that summer was actually kind of a honeymoon, summer of 2017. I started going to the gym a ton. I became a gym rat. I lost a ton of weight. I felt fantastic. I took a lot of selfies. And yeah, and then that fall, I took my last class at university for my master's and had my thesis performed, and I ended up kind of making my thesis partially about that. You know, when I first wrote the sketches for my thesis, it had nothing to do with anything really. It was just music I was writing, and then you know, as this big change happened in my life, I was continuing to write the piece, and I couldn't not make it about myself that way. So it's kind of cool. I ended up titling, well, the entire piece was titled Ends and Beginnings, a cycle of symphonic tango songs. And it represented the end of several eras. The end of me being in grad school, the end of me living as a guy, you know, the end of 2017, and the beginning of my post-grad school life, the beginning of my life as a girl, as a woman, my life as a master of music, mistress of music, I like to call myself. It was really cool. I got together a group of 20-odd people to play my tango orchestra piece, 5 movements, 27 minutes long. My advisors loved it, so it was a pretty nice sort of culmination of that. Kind of like celebrating discovering who I am, as well as celebrating finishing this thing that I first actually set out to do 10 years previous. It was 2007 when I first decided to go to grad school, and it took me 3 tries, and I started in 2010 and took a break from 2013 to 16, and yeah. So I started hormones about 6 months in, January 2018. I started hormones. So I've been on them for a little over 2 years now. Also, January 2018, I started working on my voice, which is quite difficult, and as you can hear, it's, somewhat there, especially if you go compare it to one or two, like a video I recorded around the eclipse time, which was just a couple months into coming out. I watched it the other day, and it was like, oh my god, wow, my voice was like that. So, also right before that, January 2018, I started doing a little bit of hair removal on my face, but not enough to really notice a difference. And, yeah, so that's a relatively short version of the story. There's a lot more details that I'm omitting and also forgetting. Someday it'd be cool to put together something a little bit more detailed, partially just for me and for anyone who takes an interest. So, thanks for watching. Please feel free to subscribe if you want to see more shit posts and bullshit stuff from me. Also check out my music channel, which I'll link. That would be cool. Alright, bye.